All right, let's talk about a real clash of titans in a crypto world. Solana versus XRP. These are two of the biggest names out there, and they're both aiming for the top spot. But, and this is the really interesting part, they're taking completely opposite approaches to get there. One's a high-speed disruptor, the other is a carefully constructed bridge to the old world of finance.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll set the stage with the altcoin leadership race. Then we'll zoom in on Solana, the performance engine. After that, we'll tackle XRP, the institutional bridge. Then, of course, we'll put them in the ring for a head-to-head comparison. And finally, we'll look ahead to 2025 and talk risks and rewards. Okay, first things first. To really get what's going on with Solana and XRP, you've got to understand the playground they're fighting in. The whole altcoin market is, well, it's getting ready for something big.
Check this out. We're talking about a projected market cap of $1.4 trillion for altcoins by early 2025. I mean, that's just a staggering number. It's not just noise. It's basically a giant starting gun for a race to see who will lead the next crypto wave. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Now, what's fascinating right now is this kind of split personality in the market. You've got the smart money, right? The big whales, the institutions. They're buying up billions in assets super quietly, super confidently. But then you have the retail crowd, everyday folks, mostly sitting on the sidelines, parked in stablecoins. It's like they're waiting for a sign. And that gap, that's a whole lot of coiled up energy just waiting to spring into the market.
Okay, let's kick things off with Solana. Think of it as the performance engine. This is the project that's all about speed, hype, and building its dominance from the ground up.
So the secret sauce for Solana is its architecture. It's what they call monolithic, which is just a fancy way of saying everything happens on one single incredibly fast layer. And you can see the results right here. We're talking thousands of transactions a second for fractions of a penny. Compare that to its biggest rival, Ethereum, which, well, it's chugging along at maybe 15 to 30 transactions, and it can cost you a few bucks or a lot more. It's a night and day difference. And that raw speed, it's not just for show. It translates directly into people actually using the thing. Look at this. In just 1 week, Solana had over 22 million active users. That's more than double the next chain on the list. That's not just a statistic, that's a massive growing community. It's what you call a network effect. And once that gets going, it's really, really hard to stop.
So what's the magic formula here? What's driving all this growth? Well, it's kind of like a perfect storm. You've got that huge user base we just saw. You've got a booming DeFi scene with over $10 billion locked up. Then you throw in the meme coin engine, which, by the way, only works because the fees are so low. And to top it all off, you now have a real, regulated on-ramp for the big money to come pouring in.
So, about that on-ramp for big money. A huge piece of the puzzle is these things called staking ETPs. Now, don't let the name scare you. The easiest way to think about them is like a stock you'd buy on a major stock exchange. They're regulated, they're easy to trade, but here's the kicker. They don't just give you exposure to Solana's price, they also pay you the staking rewards as passive income. Suddenly, for a traditional investor, Solana isn't just a growth play, it's an asset that actually pays you to hold it. That's a game changer.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Matt Haugen from Bitwise just lays it out perfectly. He says, institutional investors love ETFs, and they love revenue. Solana has the most revenue of any blockchain. Therefore, institutional investors love Solana ETFs. I mean, it's that simple. It checks all the boxes for Wall Street.
All right, let's shift gears completely. Now we're talking about XRP. And if Solana is the grassroots disruptor, XRP is the total opposite. It's the institutional bridge. Ripple, the company behind it, is playing a completely different, much longer game. This is all about working with the big guys, from the top down. Okay, so you can't even begin to talk about XRP without mentioning the elephant in the room, the massive years-long legal fight with the SEC. It's been a real saga. They got a big win back in 2023, but the drama isn't over. Just recently, a judge threw a wrench in the works and rejected a proposed settlement. So the story continues. But here's the thing. Ripple's top lawyer, Stuart Alderati, came out and basically said, hey everyone, calm down. This is just a procedural issue. They're making it very clear that this isn't a loss on the core arguments. They're saying the good parts of the ruling are still intact. It's a really important bit of context because it's all about managing that long-term narrative.
And this right here shows you their playbook in action. While all that legal chaos is happening in the US, what's Ripple doing? They're out making deals. They just locked in a partnership with Absa Bank, one of the biggest banks in South Africa. We're talking over $100 billion in assets to handle digital asset custody in Africa. This is exactly what they're about, ignoring the noise and scoring these huge institutional wins.
So when you boil it all down, XRP isn't trying to be the cool kid on the block. There's no meme coin hype here. Their whole bet is on becoming the essential plumbing for global finance. The goal is to be the go-to, compliant, regulated network for banks. It's a long-term, slow-burn strategy, but if it pays off, it could be absolutely massive. Okay, so we've looked at them individually. Now for the fun part. Let's put Solana and XRP head-to-head. Disruption versus integration.
When you look at the tech, they couldn't be more different. It's a classic case of opposites. Solana is that raw, high-performance engine designed for speed. XRP, on the other hand, is like a fortified bank vault, built for security and regulation. One's a disruptor, one's a bridge.
And naturally, that deep technical difference leads them to completely different playgrounds. Solana is all about the consumer. We're talking DeFi, gaming, NFTs, anything that needs to be fast and cheap. XRP, totally different world. It's focused on business to business, helping banks move money, settle assets, and maybe even power the central bank digital currencies of the future.
And all of this boils down to the story each one tells the market, which, let's be honest, is maybe the most important thing in crypto. Solana's narrative is pure excitement. It's the Ethereum killer, the next big thing, explosive growth. XRP's story is the banker's coin. It's about stability, compliance, and long-term adoption. Two completely different sales pitches.
So, looking ahead to 2025, what's next? Well, it's not going to be a smooth ride for either of them. Both projects have some pretty big risks and, of course, some huge potential rewards. Let's just break down the big worries for each. With Solana, it's pretty clear. Can the network stay online? We've all seen it go down before. And can it keep the hype train rolling? For XRP, it's a different beast. It's all about that SEC case. Will it ever truly be over? And can they convince the notoriously slow-moving banks to actually come on board? Very, very different sets of challenges. Which brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? As all this new money potentially floods into the market, which strategy is going to win? Is it the grassroots bottom-up explosion of a project like Solana? Or is it the top-down institutional handshake of XRP? I mean, the answer to that question could very well define the entire next chapter of crypto.